we want to do is, instead of doing it this way, okay, I'm going to specify only the columns for which we need dummy variables, right? So if you don't want to consider the entire data, then we can say, so I want fireplace and remodel. Okay, so no period. Period means everything, right? So take away period, and then you say I want only these two variables to be included. Okay. Now if I run, okay, so you have only those 5 and then 2. Okay. All right. So let's see what happens if you take the 0 away. Okay. Remember, 0 is for suppressing the intercept. Okay. If you don't want intercept, you put a 0 there. So if I take the 0 out, okay, so now I have the intercept, right? And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. There are 5 values, but only 4 dummy variables, which is what we want. We want k minus 1 dummy variables. Okay, so now after running the model matrix, okay, so when you don't suppress the intercept, okay, and then you specify just the 2 factor variables that you want converted, so you get the intercept and then the correct number of dummy variables. So you have 5 possible values for fireplace, and you get 4 dummy variables for fireplace. Then we have 3 possible values for remodel, and you get 2 dummy variables. Okay, and then of course you have that intercept hanging there. We don't really need the intercept. We have to get rid of the intercept. So now what we have to do is to combine .1 housing mat into housing df. Okay, when you are trying to run models, so we have to now get rid of these 2 columns, okay, fireplace and remodel. We need to get rid of them, and in their place put the dummy variables, the 4 dummy variables for fireplace and 2 dummy variables for remodel. So that's what we have to do now. Okay. So to do this, the first thing to do is to change this matrix. So right now that's a matrix that needs to be changed to a data frame. Okay. So housing dot mat. So how do you change a matrix into a data frame? As data frame. Okay, do that. Okay. Now this is going to change that entire thing into a data frame. All right. So now after changing that, we can drop the intercept by that. If you did -1, then it's going to convert the matrix into a data frame and then drop the first column. The -1 here stands for the first column, and the minus sign says, okay, get rid of the first column. We don't want, see, we are trying to only convert fireplace into dummy variables and remodel into dummy variables. So we have 5 values for fireplace, we want 4 dummy variables. We have 3 possible values for remodel, we want 2 dummy variables for that. Now when we did the model matrix, it puts the intercept there. So we want to get rid of the intercept and bring in only the dummy variables. So that's why we are getting rid of the intercept. So that's our -1 there. Okay. All right. So that's your dummy variable. Okay. Let's save this as dum1. Okay. So here, if you go look at dum1, you see that it is a data frame and the intercept is gone. Okay. Okay. So now we need to take housing.df. Okay. And we need to get rid of the last 2 columns, because those are the last 2 columns are the ones that we want to replace with the dummy variables. So here again we need to specify minus those columns, and since there are 2 columns that we want to get rid of, you have to give that as a vector. So there are 14 columns, so we want the 13th and 14th column gone. Okay. Say we save that as df1. Okay. So now we have df1 has all the columns except for the last 2, right? And then dum1 has the dummy variables for those 2 last columns. Okay. So now we need to merge these 2. Okay. And the command to merge, so there is bind. It's called bind. There is column bind and row bind. C bind and R bind. R bind binds, rows. The same number. The columns must be exactly same, and then you can stick in more rows at the bottom of each other. Column bound, number of rows should be exactly same, and you can add more columns. So if you did C bind, okay, df1 comma dum1, okay, now that's going to combine and give us what we want. Okay, so let's call this housing with dum. Okay. So now housing with dum. Okay, so here it is. So it has all the original columns, and then after kitchen, for fireplace you have the 4 dummy variables, and for remodel we have the 2 dummy variables. Okay. So that's what we have here. Of course, we didn't have to save these in the intermediate ones. You could have just combined all of this in one code chunk, and the way you would do that is, say, housing with dum, right? You say C bind. Okay. You specified that, okay, comma, that. Okay. And it becomes kind of a long code chunk. Sometimes it's not easy to read code chunks like this. That's why it's a good idea to split it up so it's easier to read. Okay, so this will do the same thing as these three code chunks are combined into just one. Okay, so give you the same thing.